For the most part, Disney Animation has been on a really steady roll, haven't they? Hey everybody, it's Charles and welcome back to my channel. So today we will be talking about the Disney revival era that we are currently in, and I will be ranking the movies that they've released so far in order of the movies that I think are their best to worst. Or maybe I'm going to be doing it from worst to best. It's just from like the bottom to the top, I mean. As I said, Disney Animation really hasn't had a flop per se in the most recent years. It's been actually a decade that the revival era has been going on, so they've been going pretty strong, really. Within the decade plus that we've been experiencing this Disney revival era, we've been given a lot of good movies from them, but you know, some are just better than others, so I'm here to talk about which ones I think are the best. Actually, all of them are pretty great, so there is no worst on this list, it's just which ones are superior to others, you know? Anyways, just for notation, I'm not adding Bolt in here because I was doing research and I was like, does Bolt fall within the Disney revival era? And I was like, ... No, it does not. So, we will be only covering movies starting from The Princess and the Frog up until now when it comes to the ranking of the Disney revival era. Personally, I love all these movies, but when you compare all of them together, some of them just don't match up and are just seen as not as good. Before we start this ranking, if you haven't already, you should go, you know, like and subscribe. Yes, saying that is still annoying, but like and subscribe. B. There are 9 movies in this era, so we will be starting off with number 9 on the list and going all the way to number 1. Of course. Oh, and there will be spoilers in this video, so know that. And if you haven't seen any of these movies by this point, what are you doing? Some of these movies are old already. I mean, come on. So number 9 on the list would be, for me personally, Frozen 2. Sorry for people who like Frozen 2. You know, my sister told me I never summarize the movies I'm talking about when I make videos, so I'm gonna start summarizing them from now on because maybe some people don't know these movies I'm talking about. I mean, who hasn't seen any of these Disney revival movies? But anyways, I'm still gonna give a quick summary of all of them. So for those of you who don't know, Frozen 2 is the continuing adventures of Anna, Elsa, Kristoff, Sven, and Olaf as they must save Arendelle from a mysterious force that is threatening to destroy it? Yeah? That's what it is? Yeah. They must go into the unknown to save Arendelle. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what the plot of the movie is. When it comes to Frozen 2, the bar is pretty high because of what Frozen 1 established, and it's safe to say they did not meet the bar. They didn't even make it near Frozen 1, which was a big disappointment for me, and for a lot of other people, I would say. The songs in Frozen 2 just aren't as memorable as the songs in Frozen 1. When I think about the songs in Frozen 2, I only think about Into the Unknown, their Oscar-nominated song, and Show Yourself, which should have been the Oscar-nominated song because that song is really the superior song in that movie. The songs in this movie really just were not popping to me. I honestly can't remember any of the lyrics for any of the other ones. Maybe Lost in the Woods, since Jonathan Grove slash Kristoff actually got a number, like a whole number to sing, but I really don't like listening to that song that much. If it comes on every once in a while, I'll listen to it, but really that song is forgettable at the end of the day, like the rest of them other than Into the Unknown and Show Yourself. The story of this movie in general really got on my nerves at times. There really was not even a villain in the movie, and you know you need a great villain to offset your main protagonist, and the greater the villain, really the greater the struggle, and there really was no villain in this movie. You could say the villain was basically like the past and things your ancestors have done that have affected you, but that is a weak villain in my opinion. There were some cute moments here and there with the story, like when Olaf did his whole recreation of the first Frozen, that was great, and there was the whole stuff with Elsa and her finding herself more and her transformation when she transformed in this movie. I was like, okay, we're finally letting our hair down. Cool, cool, cool. But really though, when the movie wasn't focused on Elsa, I was completely zoned out because none of the other characters really were given anything substantial or interesting to do in this movie, so it was really boring at times. At least the visuals in the movie are great. The animators at Disney Animation really went off when they made this movie. It looks amazing. But yeah, what else can I say about this movie? It really just does not compare to any of the other movies on this list. And seriously, Elsa saves the day on her water horse, which was a cool scene. It was a cool scene, but I was just like, okay, but I didn't really feel any danger the whole movie or that even she justified saving the day at the end because I was like, this is kind of all preposterous, but it's whatever. It's Frozen 2. But yeah, they all live happily ever after at the end of this movie, of course, and basically they kind of set it up for Frozen 3, and I'm like, if we're gonna get a Frozen 3, please make it better than Frozen 2, because I feel like there was just a lot of filler in Frozen 2, and yeah, that's why it's at number 9 on the list. Moving on to number 8 in this list, which would be Ralph Breaks the Internet. Yes, I had to put it at 8, but I would have put it up much higher, but it's a sequel, and I don't think it brought that much new to the table, so that's why it's at number 8. But other than that, I really love Ralph Breaks the Internet. For those who don't know, Ralph Breaks the Internet is, once again, the continuation of the adventures of Ralph and Vanellope as they go on the internet to try to find a part that will save Sugar Rush, because Sugar Rush basically went down because of something Ralph did, and they had to go basically on the internet to get the part that they need to save Sugar Rush, and yes, antics ensue in this movie. I watched this movie about 3 times in the movie theaters, and the first time I was like, this is super cute, but the second and third time I was like, there's actually a lot in this movie that I didn't notice the first time around. The theme of toxic friendship in this movie was very strong. At first, when I watched it, I was like, I felt it, but the second and third time I watched it, I was like, no, this really is a good portrayal of toxic friendships and how sometimes if you're in a toxic friendship, the two people in the friendship can ruin each other. Unlike Frozen 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet actually justifies a second movie because it actually has a good story to back it up. Once again, the animators at Disney Animation have done it again. The visuals in this movie are amazing, and yeah, it's just a really fun movie to look at, and we meet some fun new characters in this movie. We meet Taraji P. Henson's ... Can't remember her character's name, sorry. And we also meet Gal Gadot's character ... Cannot also remember her name either, but it's whatever. It's been like a year or two since I've seen this movie, so slack, slack, slack. Sure, we get to meet those 2 new characters and we get to hang with both of them for a good amount of time, but we also lose Fix-It Felix Jr. and Calhoun since they don't really go on the adventure with Ralph and Vanellope, which honestly, in my opinion, was kind of a shame because they were 2 of the best parts of the first movie. Oh, and in this movie we get to see all the Disney princesses assemble together, and it was great. Seeing all of them together was just magical. I really want a movie with just all the Disney princesses because they had such little screen time in this movie, but they were amazing. Truly, this movie delivered on a good story, good animation, and good messages, and all around fun. And I hate that I had to put it at number 8, but it's a sequel, and as I said before, it does bring some new themes, but I don't feel like it's groundbreaking enough to warrant it being higher on this list when there are so many other Disney movies here that just bring something really good to the table that this movie could not surpass. Yeah, sorry Ralph and Vanellope. Moving on to number 7 on the list, we are going to be talking about Moana. I hate that to put this movie at this number, but you know what? I just had to. So Moana is the story about the character Moana. She is the daughter of a village chief, and she must save her village from being destroyed by nature, in a sense. Te Kā is nature, so nature in a sense. So she must find Maui and team up with Maui to restore the heart of Te Fiti to save the day and all that junk. So they finally gave us a Disney princess who didn't have a love interest, and I gotta say, woo for feminism, but I just feel like the movie would have been good if there was just at least a little flirtation with someone on the island before she went away on her journey. That's just my opinion. No one said she had to be dating someone, but I don't know. Maybe just a little cute friendship with a guy or girl. You never know. A lot of this movie takes place on the water in the ocean, and it's not that the ocean and all the visuals don't look amazing, because they do. Disney animators did that once again. It's just that we spend a lot of time on the ocean, so you're just looking at water and Moana and Maui for a lot of the movie, which kind of got boring every once in a while. I mean, they have the start of the movie where she's on the island, and then it's like in the middle of the movie they're like seeing like monsters and all that, and then at the end they finally reach Te Kā and Te Fiti, but there was just a lot of spaces in this movie where they're in open water, and I was like, great, now what? The banter between Moana and Maui was fun at times, but I just rewatched the movie and I was like, I can zone out while watching this, to be honest, because like, you're cute, but it doesn't really capture my attention every single time I watch. But you know what does capture my attention when I think about this movie? It's the songs. Yes, the songs. I have to give it up to Lin-Manuel Miranda. That guy. At first, I was like, ugh, this movie is kind of devoid of any really, really good catchy songs, but I think what Lin-Manuel Miranda did by kind of patching all the songs together to make one coherent, like, message was honestly kind of brilliant and really good. My favorite songs in the movie are Where You Are, How Far I'll Go, the reprisal of How Far I'll Go, and You're Welcome. I like that this movie had a lot of Polynesian culture infused in it. I think that if we're going forward with Disney princess movies, we should be getting a lot more Disney princesses of color, because we already have a lot of white Disney princesses, so it'd be nice to get Disney princesses from different cultures and to see their cultures reflected in their movies. You know, every Disney princess has a sidekick, an animal sidekick, a sidekick of some sort, and in this movie they had two options. They had Pumbaa, the adorable pig thing. Is it a pig? I think it's a pig. And Hey Hey, the idiot chicken. And you know what they went with? The idiot chicken. Because Pumbaa was apparently afraid of water, so they were like, we can't get this pig on this boat. So they were like, we're just gonna put Hey Hey in this boat because he's an idiot and he'll be funny. And I was like, no. Disney really is giving Alan Tudyk paychecks, people. Alan Tudyk is getting paid by Disney. At the end of this movie, when they have to fight Te Kā, and then they were like, oh no, we're losing, and then Moana was like, hold up, I think I've solved it. And she goes, oh, Moses parting the Red Sea type thing, and she meets Te Kā. I was like, stunning. The whole moment where she's like, and you know who you are. That's some bad singing, but whatever. I was like, yes, Moana, sing, sing, and hopefully not be crushed by Te Kā's fiery hands. Not gonna lie, when it was revealed that Te Kā was actually Te Fiti, I was like, I'm gagged, I'm gagged. Overall, I think Moana is a gorgeous movie. It has a lot of fun animation, a lot of good, exciting moments in it. It's beautiful, and yeah, a really nice story in it about finding yourself. A lot of Disney movies have a message about finding who you are, but you know, that's just what they do. And it's nice to see they just switch up the kinds of characters who figure out who they are. Moving on to number 6 on the list, we are going to be talking about The Princess and the Frog. So in Princess and the Frog, you have Tiana. She's a hard-working girl, and she's trying to get money to open her own restaurant so she can honor her dad. And then she's like, oh no, I don't have enough money to beat these people who are bidding for the place. And then she meets the frog prince Navid, who has been turned into a frog by the evil Dr. Facilier. And she's like, oh my god, frog person. And he's like, oh my gosh, if you help turn me back, I will help give you money for this restaurant. And when she kisses him, she turns into a frog too. And then it's this whole journey about them trying to turn back into humans before it's too late. And yeah, this is the movie that kickstarted the Disney Revival era off, so it honestly deserves a lot more credit than it gets, because I feel like no one really be standing The Princess and the Frog when it actually is a great movie. I feel like there are some missteps that the writers and animators at Disney Animation and all that did when it came to Tiana, But overall, I find Tiana to be a great Disney princess and a great Disney character in general. I just wish she wasn't a frog for a lot of this movie, and that's what a lot of people also have to say about this movie. I really hate that she was a frog for a lot of this movie. It made sense in the story, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't like this. Like, she's only a human for like a third of the movie, which is annoying. Seriously, Tiana is one of my favorite Disney princesses, and y'all did her dirty, Disney. And, at least she's getting her own ride at Disneyland now. When it comes to the music in this movie, it is one of the best movies in Disney animation with music. Every single song in this movie I love. I love I'm Almost There, I love Down in New Orleans, I love Are You Ready, and I love the song that Mama Odie sings, You Gotta Dig a Little Deeper. Is that the name of the song? Anyways, the point is all the songs in this movie are a bop, and they should be listened to more because they are just so great. So other than Tiana, you have Prince Navid, who's the Prince of Maldonia, and he gets turned to the frog. And then you have the Voodoo Man, Dr. Facilier. You have also Charlotte, Tiana's best white friend, who she's known since she was a kid. And you have Charlotte's dad, Big Daddy, who is a big plot point. Who else? You have Louis, the crocodile alligator. I don't know which one he is. I think it's a crocodile or an alligator. I don't know. And then you have Ray, who is the firefly guy that hangs out with them, who helps guide them through the bayou. And you have Mama Odie, who is the witch who tries helping them turn back to humans. And you also get Oprah as Tiana's mom for a few minutes. Oh, and you also get the guy who's the servant of Navid who turns on Navid. Yeah, that guy. The end of this movie is so powerful when Tiana is faced with giving in to Dr. Facilier or saving Navid. I'm just like, wow. This is a powerful scene because he really is playing on her emotions and her desires, and she is still strong enough to be like, no, this isn't the right thing to do. And I'm like, you work it, girl. Work it. The 2D animation in this movie really doesn't get enough credit because a lot of this movie has great imagery and great visuals, and everything with the Shadow Man, the Voodoo Man, he has a lot of names. He has a lot of names. But anyway, everything with his like ghost shadow monster things, I'm like, this is really cool. I really don't have anything bad to say about this movie because all I would have to say that is bad is that Tiana is a frog for basically most of the movie. But if you just fix that and you maybe fix a little bit of her character attributes, because there are some things that are bordering on stereotype, but other than those little nitpicks, I'm like, this movie is honestly one of the best movies that Disney Animation has put forward, in my opinion. Give more respect to Princess and the Frog's name because that movie deserves a lot more love and respect than it gets. I just really love the way this movie ends. Such a good happy ending. Such a good happy ending. I just love it when good people triumph and they get what they deserve. Okay, we are now entering the top 5 of the Disney Revival era, and before we continue, I'm gonna just say, if you haven't already, you should subscribe. There's the plug-in, and it will be coming back again later. Coming in at number 5, I would have to say it is Zootopia. Zootopia is about police officer Judy Hopps, and how she has to team up with con artist Nick Wilde, and how they had to solve this crazy conspiracy theory that's going on in the town of Zootopia. City of Zootopia. Conspiracy theory they are investigating is if predators are reverting back to their old ways and hurting prey. Right off the bat, you can tell this movie is about race, that they are addressing racial issues, and I feel like they handled it very well. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but what I can remember, I think that they handled everything very well and that they made some very poignant points. Clearly, this movie is trying to say that the predators are the equivalent of black people and people of color in our society, and that the prey in the movie are the equivalent to white people in our society. I mean, it's pretty obvious that's what the movie is trying to say, so if you didn't notice that, then this movie is a really fun whodunit movie, but at its core, it's trying to address, as I said before, the issues of race and racism, and I just think that to do that in a kids movie was very good. Banter that goes on between Nick and Judy is a lot of fun, and you can just really feel the chemistry the two of them have. Ginnifer Goodwin and Jason Bateman did a really good job with the voice work in this movie. The scene in this movie where Nick is telling Judy about the past trauma he faced at the hands of the quote-unquote prey, I was like, this really is touching my heart. I honestly 100% relate to what he is going through, and yeah. It was revealed that the mayor's assistant, Belle Merriweather, I think that's her name, that she was the villain. I was like, oh, but at the same time I was like, I'm not that surprised. I thought her being the villain was a very good metaphor for how in the real world, people who are villains usually are people who we suspect to not be villains, because we always think we have this ideal vision or picture of what someone is who is villainous or evil, but a lot of the times the people who are really villainous and evil are the people that you really just don't suspect, because you've been trained to think that they are the good people or people who can never do stuff like that. Overall, Zootopia is a really fun movie. It has a good message at it that it can teach a lot of kids and maybe even adults who actually pay attention to it. And yeah, Shakira's in it as a gazelle, so what more could you want from a movie? Now, moving on to number 4 on the list, which for me would be Tangled. Tangled is the story about Rapunzel and how Rapunzel wants to leave her tower to go see the floating lights in the sky, but she can't go because her mom, Mother Gothel, who really isn't her mom, is like, you ain't ever leaving this tower, girl. And one day Flynn Rider, who's on the run, stumbles upon Rapunzel's tower, and she captures him, and she's like, baby girl, you're gonna take me to these floating lights. And he's like, okay, because she took the tiara that he stole. And he's just like, okay, I'll bring this girl that's gonna get me my tiara back. So they go on an adventure to see the floating lights. But revelations occur and stuff goes down. This was one of the first movies I saw in theaters. As a kid, I really didn't get to see that many movies in the movie theater. So when this movie came out, this was really one of the first movies that I got to see, especially without my parents. I saw it with my sister and her friends in the theaters, and it was a blast. This was the first Disney animation movie to jump from 2D animation to 3D animation, and even today the animation holds up really well and the movie just looks gorgeous. The imagery in this movie is quite striking, and I actually think about a lot of the shots in this movie a lot, especially the floating lantern scene. That scene I think about a lot because it's just really beautiful, and the song they sing, what's the song name? I See the Light, or At Last I See the Light, which is the Oscar nomination for this movie, which is weird, which is in my mind, because I'm like, where was the best animated movie nomination and win? As a Disney princess movie, this has it all in my opinion. It has the fun, adventurous stuff. It has a really good Disney princess, a really good male protagonist to help her, a really good animal sidekick in Pascal, and we also have Maximus too, but would he be a sidekick? Nah, he's just his own animal thing tagging along. Rapunzel and Flynn Rider were such a cute couple in this movie. They had such nice banter, and it really is about the banter when it comes to these movies, because if you don't have good banter between your characters, then why would you want to be spending time with them at all? Rapunzel is a very nice Disney princess, but without Flynn Rider, it wouldn't have been as fun to watch this movie, because Flynn Rider really adds this zest to the movie. He's really fun and charming, and he really challenges Rapunzel at times, and he's a really good foil for what Rapunzel says a lot of the times too. So she needed Flynn Rider in this movie to make this movie as good as it was. The most needed thing in this movie was the villain. Oh, the villain. The villain, Mother Gothel. She is an iconic Disney villain for a lot of reasons. Not only is she serving looks throughout the movie, but she has one of the most villainous powers of all, and that is gaslighting. And I would say that's the most villainous thing any of these Disney villains could have, because this is a real life thing that people can have and they can use against people, and it's just so scary to see how she gaslights Rapunzel this whole movie. Oh my god, the scene in the middle of the movie when she's like, mother knows, and then Rapunzel's like, no, and she's like, oh, no, and then her song that she sung at the start of the movie that she was gonna sing again turns into like this dark and insidious thing, and I'm like, ooh, she's showing her true nature, and she's like, I'm gonna get you, Rapunzel, by scaring you. She's like, if the nice gaslighting's not gonna work, I'm just gonna flat out scare you. And I was like, ooh, she doesn't even need any superpowers or magical powers or anything. She's just using her mind and using it to trap and scare Rapunzel. And I'm like, ooh, the scariest thing of all. At the end of this movie, when Mother Gothel stabs Flynn Rider, like Rapunzel, I too was gagged. Overall, this movie is such a fun time. It's such a good adventure movie, and it has such a good message about striking out on your own and exploring the world and not being afraid to see what's out there, because there's a lot out there to be afraid of, but you just have to explore and hope to find the best in things and all that junk. Also, that people be gaslighting you like crazy, and you have to be careful, because if you're not careful, they can gaslight you into a situation where you're just stuck and powerless and helpless, and it could be a very bad situation. Gaslighting is not good. Moving on to number 3, which for me is Big Hero 6. Big Hero 6 is about this guy named Hiro Hamada and how he's trying to solve this mystery about this guy who has stolen his microbots, and with the help of his friends tries to solve what is going on. I felt like this movie was kind of Disney Animation's own version of the Avengers when I watched it. It just had this whole superhero vibe in it, and I'm pretty sure the character Fred's like were superheroes, so there's a lot of superhero stuff going on here. And also, Stan Lee makes a cameo in this movie, so I'm like, is this based on a comic? Because if it is it a Marvel comic? I don't know. This movie is a lot of fun. It has a lot of action and excitement in it, but really there's a message about loss in this movie, because as you know, I'm talking about spoilers in this movie, but Hiro's brother Tadashi dies in a fire in this movie, and he's just grappling with it after he dies. So I think Tadashi's alive for like, what, 10, maybe 15 minutes of the movie, or maybe 20, and then he's dead. And then the rest of the movie, Hiro has to grapple with the loss of his brother, and I just feel like the movie really tackled dealing with loss in a very good way. I've watched this movie a good amount of times, and it just turned 5 this year, and I recently watched it and I was still loving everything about the movie. It's just a really fun ride with good messages and a lot of good characters, and honestly, it's just, I kept seeing it, but it's a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun, and I can't deny how much fun I have when I watch it. Seriously, Baymax, how could you not like Baymax? Baymax is so much fun, he's so adorable, and I would like a Baymax stuffed animal, along with a Kirby stuffed animal. Yes. Moving on to number 2 in my ranking video, it would have to be Frozen, the original. Frozen is the story about Anna and Elsa. They are 2 orphan princesses, and Elsa has come of age, so she's gonna become queen. But then antics ensue, and she basically has frozen over their city, town, kingdom, that's the right word, kingdom of Arendelle. And Anna is like, oh my god, I'm the reason why this happened, I gotta go fix it. So basically Anna must go on an adventure to find her sister and reverse the winter that she has caused. And yes. First off, I gotta say, it's very interesting that they reworked this movie very last minute before the movie came out, that Elsa was originally the villain, because this movie has like 2 villains in it, but that Elsa was the original villain. But when they made not Show Yourself, that's in the second movie, when they made Let It Go, they were like, this song is not a villain song, it is clearly something that we have to rework when it comes to the movie, because this song is something that a villain would not be singing. Seriously, the Let It Go number is iconic. You can't say it's not iconic, it is iconic. It is a #1 hit, it is an Oscar-winning song, it is, I'm pretty sure, a Grammy-winning song. It is that girl, Let It Go. It is so played out that none of us want to hear it anymore. Alongside Anna and Elsa, there is Kristoff in this movie, there's his reindeer Sven, there's the snowman Olaf, and there is Hans. This movie really set the bar when it comes to Disney animation movies in general, and also Disney animation movies that have music in them, because the music in this is fantastic. I'm pretty sure every song is memorable, from Do You Want to Build a Snowman all the way to, okay, maybe not the Troll song, but every song other than the Troll song is pretty memorable. At the core of this movie, it's a movie about the relationship between these two sisters, Anna and Elsa, and I just think the relationship is explored pretty well throughout the movie, and it's pretty heartwarming, their relationship by the end of the movie. When it's revealed at the end of the day that the bond between the two sisters saves the day, I was like, oh, what a new message. Usually when love is talked about, it's the love between a couple, but this movie really showed that love can exist between siblings or family members in general, and I'm like, wow, that when people say only love can save you, maybe it's not only the love of someone who quote unquote has fallen in love with you, but the love of people like your friends and family, and I was like, such a profound message. Frozen really was a cultural phenomenon when it came out in 2013, and to this day, it's still one of the movies from the Disney animation revival era that people still watch over and over. This movie, with its characters, its songs, its animation, and just story and message in general, have really left an impact on people, which is why it's such a highly regarded movie, and which is why it's so high on my list. But yeah, Frozen. I love it a lot, and some people don't like it, but you know, it is what it is. And you know, there is the gay character in this movie for a split second. You know, Oaken, he is gay. Y'all, he is. Moving on to the number one movie in my ranking for this Disney revival era would have to be Wreck-It Ralph. So Wreck-It Ralph is the story of Ralph, who is the villain of the game Fix-It Felix Jr., and he is just tired of people seeing him as a bad guy. Even though he is the villain of the video game, he is not a bad guy, but people treat him like a bad guy, and he is not for that. He wants to be seen as a good guy, but he is being seen as a bad guy by everyone in his game. So he tries to go win a medal from a game called Hero's Duty, but things go wrong and he ends up in a game called Sugar Rush. There he meets Vanellope von Schweetz, who he sees is an outsider in her own game, and he empathizes with her and he tries to help her win a race. Lots of revelations occur in the movie and lots of stuff goes down. I just think it's really interesting in this movie how Ralph is programmed to be the villain, and all the people in his video game know that he's supposed to be the villain, yet they all treat him like he's a bad person when he's not. And he keeps trying to show them that he's not a bad person, that he's nice, and he just wants to be around them, but they all keep treating him like the bad guy because he's the villain of the game, and I'm like, y'all, you know you're in a video game, so why do you keep treating him like he really is evil? When Ralph teams up with Vanellope, the movie gets a lot better because they have banter, and as I keep saying, banter is great, and the banter that the two of them have is pretty funny and pretty hilarious, and they just have a really good chemistry. They both also have a lot of emotional moments in the movie together. There's a moment in the movie toward the end where Ralph smashes her cart that the two of them made together because the villain in the movie, King Candy, is like, you can't help her, Ralph, and he's like, this is the reason because, and he's like, okay, you're right. And when he smashes the go-kart in front of Vanellope, I was just in tears watching it in the theaters. I remember in theaters that when that scene was happening, someone was laughing, and I was like, this is not it, person. This is an emotional moment, and you have no heart. Oh, and in this movie, there's also the characters of Fix-It Felix Jr., Calhoun, and King Candy. Those are the other ones that you should really know about. Anyway, I just feel like this movie is so pure. It's a movie about outsiders trying to be accepted by people who are seen as the normal people, the mainstream, and I just relate to it a lot, which is why I put it as number one, because there's a lot of elements in this movie where I'm just like, yeah, I feel that in my soul. This movie is pretty fun. It has a lot of great scenes in it, a lot of exhilarating scenes in it. It's very beautiful to look at, especially when you're in Sugar Rush. Everything is just colorful galore. The characters are all great to be around, and you really learn something while watching this movie. It really touches your hearts a lot of the times toward the middle and end of the movie, and I do love myself a good movie that will pull out the heartstrings. At the end, when it's revealed that King Candy is actually the missing person from the video game that got unplugged, Turbo, I was gagged. God, King Candy Dash Turbo was such a good villain. Oh my god, him racing against Vanellope and him versing Ralph, I was like, this is great. If you're someone who feels like you're on the outside looking in, then I feel like this movie would be for you, because when I first saw it in the theaters, I felt it deeply in my soul, and when I still watch it today, I'm just like, yeah, it still resonates very much with me. I love movies about people who are misunderstood by society because, once again, I relate 100%. And with that, we are done ranking the Disney Revival era movies, and man, this took a lot of time. My god. I cannot wait for Raya and the Last Dragon to come out. It was supposed to come out this November time, but with Corona and everything going on, we were deprived of it since Soul took its place, and now Raya and the Last Dragon is going to come out in March. Maybe. We'll see, but hopefully that's a good movie. Awkwafina is playing the dragon in that movie, so you know it's about to be great. And also, Kelly Marie Tran, that's her name. She just got voice cast as the lead character because the person they had as the lead character before apparently wasn't working out that well, so they replaced her with Kelly Marie Tran, and good for you, Kelly Marie Tran. Get that Disney paycheck. Who knows when Disney's revival era is gonna come to an end, when they make a really bad movie that is just gonna end this era out. But for now, we are still rolling in pretty great movies from them. Okay, I'm gonna end this now and go because I'm tired. I've been sitting in front of this camera for way too long and I just want to not be in front of a camera anymore. Okay, so like and subscribe if you haven't already. And yes, thank you for coming and watching me talk about random movie junk once again. And I appreciate for coming, and yeah, okay, I'm gonna go. Bye.